Tributes are pouring in from fellow artists, celebrities, and public figures.
Our Mark Cotarobis is live in the newsroom now with a look at some of the reaction to Dolly's passing. Mark.
Yeah, David and Giovanna, good afternoon. We are hearing today from fellow entertainers. They are shocked, they are heartbroken by the news and the passing of Dolly Parton.
The room was small. No cameras, no crowd, no flowers the size of walls, just silence. And the people Dolly Parton chose. On the 25th of August, 2026, one of the most beloved human beings who ever lived took her last breath in Nashville, Tennessee. And true to everything she ever was, she left no room for chaos. No public spectacle, no stadium farewell. She had planned this moment years in advance, down to the dress, down to the music, down to the exact people she wanted in that room. Immediate family only. That was the instruction. And the world respected it. The flags went to half-staff. The tributes poured in from every corner of the planet.
Actress Jamie Lee Curtis, she wrote, "Thank you, Dolly, for all of it." Actress and comedian Lily Tomlin sharing this photo of her and Dolly, and in a second post describing Dolly as the great harmonizer of humanity. And this afternoon, I spoke to fellow songwriter Diane Warren describing her as a hurricane, and you just never expect a hurricane to stop.
Fans wept at her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The Grand Ole Opry fell silent. A president ordered a nation to mourn. But inside that room, only the people she had chosen, only the ones she had decided, somewhere in the quiet of her own heart, were truly hers. Now, here is where this story gets interesting. Because when the details started to surface, when people close to the family began to piece together who had actually been in that room, one name stopped everyone cold. Not a sibling, not a niece or nephew, not someone you would expect to find in a circle that tight, that private, that sacred. Someone else, entirely. And the moment you hear that name, the moment it clicks into place, everything you thought you knew about Dolly Parton shifts. Because that one choice, made quietly, away from every camera and every crowd, reveals more about who she really was than 50 years of hits ever could. Stay with me. You need to hear this. The world stopped. The news broke on a Tuesday. Her nephew, Brian Seaver, the son of her sister Cassie Parton, and the man who had served as Dolly's head of security for over 2 decades, posted a video to her Instagram account. His voice was steady but heavy, the way a man's voice gets when he has rehearsed something so many times he almost believes he can get through it. "I am representing the Parton and Owens family today," he said, announcing the passing of my aunt Dolly Rebecca Parton Dean. He paused. "I have imagined the heaviness of this moment, but haven't truly felt it until now. It is an honor that is mixed with absolute pride and great sadness. But sadness lies with us, not with Dolly." He told the world that Dolly was in the arms of Jesus, and that she had surely been met in heaven by Carl, her beloved husband of 59 years, who had passed just the March before, and by her parents, and by the countless others who had watched for her and longed for her to arrive. Dolly opened doors not just for me, but for her entire family to reach potential we didn't even know was possible, Seaver said. And for generations of singers, songwriters, musicians, and dreamers from every walk of life and across every continent, by her example, we believed that everything was possible. Within minutes, the world detonated. Social media collapsed under the weight of the grief. Trending topics in every country, flowers being laid at her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame before the video had even finished playing. The Grand Ole Opry, the institution she had joined 55 years earlier, went silent in tribute. President Donald Trump ordered American flags to be lowered to half-staff nationwide for 1 full week, beginning that evening at 6 o'clock. 1 week for a woman who never ran for office, who never commanded armies, who never sought power, but who somehow had more of it than almost anyone alive, because she used hers only to lift. Think about that for a second. When was the last time you watched a flag go to half-staff for a country singer? When was the last time the entire world agreed, without argument, without division, without even a moment of debate, that we had lost someone irreplaceable? That happened on the 25th of August, 2026. And the reason it happened tells you everything you need to know about who she was. The tributes that broke the internet. Let me walk you through some of what poured in, because the tributes themselves tell a story. Casey Musgraves was one of the first voices. She posted just a few words, "Dolly, this really hurts." Then, a little later, the world feels a lot less sparkly all of a sudden. And then, almost as a whisper, "So glad she's with her Carl Dean." No one talked to me today. That last line wrecked people, because Carl had only been gone since March of 2025. 17 months. And the image of Dolly finally being reunited with the quiet, private man she had loved since she was 18 years old, it was almost too much to hold. Jane Fonda, Dolly's co-star from the 1980 film 9 to 5, posted a lengthy tribute on Instagram. She wrote that she was devastated, and then she said something that cut straight through. "More than anyone I have ever known, Dolly will always be with us because she was so present, so powerful, so generous and playful that she is woven into all our lives and hearts forever." Woven into all our lives. Think about that phrase. That's not what you say about a celebrity. That's what you say about someone who was part of the fabric of who you became. Lily Tomlin, also a 9 to 5 co-star, also a lifelong friend, posted a black and white photo and just 2 words. No words. Sometimes 2 words are a whole eulogy. Reba McEntire, Dolly's longtime peer and friend, wrote, "Your love, your music, and you gave so much with your huge heart. I'll never forget the first time I met you, and I'll never forget our last conversation. I hold it with love in my heart." And then she added something that stopped scrollers in their tracks. "There will never ever be another you." Dionne Warwick wrote that she would miss Dolly's laughter, her jokes, her very being, and told her to rest well and in total peace. Her friend. Sir Paul McCartney shared a photo of the two of them and recalled meeting Dolly at the Grand Ole Opry when she was just starting her solo career. "She was so bubbly and full of life," he wrote. "Her songwriting, her singing, and her philanthropy were unrivaled in the world of country music, and it is hard to imagine living in a world without Dolly." Paul McCartney, a Beatle, saying it's hard to imagine living in a world without Dolly Parton. Boy George, who Dolly once said outdressed her on stage, wrote simply, "I loved Dolly. Everyone loved Dolly." And that right there, that one sentence, is the thing that makes Dolly different from almost every other icon in human history. Everyone loved Dolly. Not most people. Not her fans. Not country music listeners. Everyone. The LGBTQ community loved her because she never made them feel like outsiders. Religious conservatives loved her because she spoke openly about her faith without weaponizing it. Children loved her because she gave them books. Parents loved her because of what those books did. Politicians on both sides loved her because she refused to take sides. Musicians from every genre loved her because she made room for all of them. Seth MacFarlane, the creator of Family Guy, a show that has lampooned virtually every celebrity alive, simply wrote that the world was a dimmer place without her. Jamie Lee Curtis called Dolly a great example for us all. Khloe Kardashian posted that she swore she believed Dolly was immortal, calling her a once-in-a-lifetime soul whose light and humanity changed the world forever. And she added, "There will never be another Dolly." Look at the range of those people. A satirist, an actress, a reality television star, a Beatle, a country singer, a Texan, a Californian, a Brit, a New Yorker. And every single one of them is saying the exact same thing in different words. We loved her without condition, and the world is smaller now. When does that happen? When in modern life does someone exist who is genuinely loved, without exception, without asterisk? Almost never. But Dolly Parton was that person, and now she was gone. The goodbye she planned for herself. Here is something most people don't know. Dolly had been planning her own funeral for years. Not in a morbid way, in the most Dolly way imaginable, practically, lovingly, and with fierce intention to make sure nobody she left behind would have to guess what she wanted. Sources close to her family had shared earlier in 2026 that she had been updating and fine-tuning the details of her own final arrangements. The last thing she wanted, they said, was for her loved ones to be burdened with second-guessing. What kind of farewell she wanted, which songs should be played, what she should wear, and on that last point she was very specific. According to reports, Dolly requested to be buried in her signature high heels and a comfortable cotton dress. Not a ball gown, not a stage costume encrusted with rhinestones. A cotton dress and high heels. That is so Dolly it hurts. She wanted to be laid to rest beside Carl at Woodlawn Memorial Park and Mausoleum in Nashville. The man she had loved since she was a teenager. The quiet, private man who didn't want the spotlight, who never did a single interview, who simply loved her and she simply loved him back, fiercely and without condition, for nearly 60 years. Carl had died in March 2025 at the age of 82, and when Dolly passed in August 2026, she had spent 17 months without him. 17 months of grief that, according to people close to her, had worn her down in ways that her health challenges alone never could have. She had told fans at Dollywood's 2026 season opening that she had been worn down and worn out with grief. She opened Dollywood that March because she had promised she would. Because that's what Dolly did, she showed up, even when her heart was in pieces. Now, finally, she could rest, and she could rest beside him. The funeral, per her wishes, was to be small, private, immediate family only. No public service was announced. Though the family encouraged the world to leave tributes at dollyparton.com and to donate to the Imagination Library, the program she founded in 1995, that has since sent free books to tens of millions of children from birth to age 5, across the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, and Ireland. That was her ask. In lieu of flowers, give a child a book. It is the most Dolly thing she ever did. Even in death, she was thinking about children she had never met. The bond nobody expected to last. Now I need to tell you about Miley. Because before we get to the unexpected guest, and we are getting there, I promise, stay with me. You need to understand a relationship that most people thought they understood and didn't. Most people know that Dolly Parton was Miley Cyrus's godmother. They know it the way you know a fun celebrity fact, something you bring up at trivia night. Miley's dad asked Dolly to be Miley's godmother. Sure, cute. But that is not even close to what this relationship actually was. It started in 1992. Billy Ray Cyrus, a young singer from Kentucky, was touring with Dolly Parton while promoting his breakout hit, Achy Breaky Heart. They connected the way people from neighboring states sometimes do, two people from similar worlds finding each other in the middle of fame's chaos. He was a Kentucky boy. She was from Tennessee. They understood each other. When Billy Ray learned his wife was pregnant, he turned to Dolly and said the words that would change both their lives. "We're having a girl, and you've got to be her godmother." Dolly said yes on the spot. "I'd be honored." There was never a formal ceremony. Dolly later called herself Miley's honorary godmother, but she was quick to add, "I'm so proud of her, love her. She's just like one of my own." Like one of my own. From a woman who never had children of her own, who poured that love into a generation of people she treated as family, that phrase meant something. And then, years later, something extraordinary happened. In September 2024, Ancestry.com researchers made a discovery that sent the internet spinning. Dolly Parton and Miley Cyrus were not just godmother and goddaughter. They were actual blood relatives, seventh cousins once removed, tracing their ancestry back to a man named John Brickey, born in Virginia in 1740, who eventually settled near what would become Dollywood. When Dolly found out, she laughed. "I would have thought we'd have been at least third cousins, 10 times removed. I'm sure she'll get a kick out of that." Miley had told W Magazine in 2024, "Dolly's been like a mother to me." She talked about how Dolly used to send her faxes, actual faxes, because that was how Dolly communicated. And she said that Dolly once wrote to her, "How much do I love you? As much as my heart can hold and as far as my arms can reach." Miley said it got her choked up every time she read it. They performed together. They collaborated. When Dolly released her rock album Rockstar in 2023, Miley contributed a cover of Wrecking Ball, her own song, handed to her godmother as a gift. Miley wrote, "I've grown up covering my Aunt Dolly's music, and it's an honor to hear her singing one of my songs." They appeared together on Beyoncé's Cowboy Carter. They hosted New Year's specials together. They wore matching outfits and performed side by side on national television. And when Dolly died, Miley's words came first. Within minutes of Brian Seaver's video announcement, Miley posted on X, "I can't believe we just lost the purest soul. Rest in glory, Dolly. My heart aches." And then, "Rip Dolly. You transcended time and you live in the hearts of entire generations." Those were the first words anyone who loved Dolly from the outside world heard from someone who knew her from the inside. And they weren't the last. The service. The service was held as Dolly wanted, quietly, in Nashville, away from cameras, away from crowds. Immediate family only. Now here is where I want you to really pay attention, because this is the part of the story that nobody expected. And I mean nobody. Not the family members who had known Dolly for decades. Not the people who worked for her. Not the reporters who had covered her for 30 years. Not even by some accounts a few of the family members themselves. Because the nature of this service was specific, the word immediate family had been used deliberately, carefully, and with Dolly's own intention behind it. So who counted as immediate family to Dolly Parton? Her siblings, her nieces, and nephews. A few people she had folded into the family so completely over so many decades that the line between family and chosen family had long since dissolved. And Miley Cyrus, let that land for a second. In a room that was otherwise closed to the world, closed to the fans who had loved her for generations, closed to the celebrities who had shared stages with her, closed to the politicians who had praised her, closed even to most of the friends who had treasured her, there was Miley. Not because of fame, not because of their professional collaborations, not because it would make a good headline, because Dolly had decided, sometime in the years before her death, that Miley was family, real family, the kind you plan your funeral around. The press release announcing Dolly's death named her as preceded in death by Carl, by her mother Avie Lee, by her father Robert Lee Parton Sr. It listed her siblings, it listed her nieces and nephews. And then it listed, among those who would gather to say goodbye, the people Dolly had specifically asked to be present. Miley Cyrus was in that room. Think about the weight of that. There were people who had known Dolly for longer, people who had worked with her for more years, people who had won more Grammys in her shadow and more Oscars at events she attended, people who had spoken about her in more interviews, who had made more money standing beside her name. But when Dolly sat down to plan the moment of her final goodbye, the moment that was only for the people she had chosen, she chose Miley. The woman she had known since before she was born. The woman she had watched grow from a baby into a global icon. The woman she had faxed love notes to. The woman who, it turned out, shared her blood through a Virginia ancestor born nearly 3 centuries ago. Miley Cyrus, who had posted her broken heart to the world within minutes of learning the news, then walked into a private room in Nashville and said goodbye to her godmother, her honorary aunt, her 7th cousin once removed, the woman who had told her, "How much do I love you? As much as my heart can hold, and as far as my arms can reach." And the unexpected thing, the thing that nobody saw coming, was not that Miley was there. It was what her being there revealed about Dolly, what it all means. Here is the question I want you to sit with. We spend a lot of time in this world sorting people into categories: famous and not famous, family and not family, country and pop, religious and secular, conservative and liberal. Dolly Parton spent her entire life refusing those categories. She said once, famously, that it costs nothing to be kind. She was a woman of deep faith who never made anyone feel judged. She was a proud Tennessean who never made anyone feel like an outsider. She was a country singer who recorded a rock album at 77. She was a grandmother figure to the LGBTQ community. She was the godmother of a pop star who had been called everything from provocative to radical. She was a billionaire-level philanthropist who dressed like she was still playing the county fair and meant it as a compliment. She did not pick lanes. She drove on all of them, simultaneously, at full speed, in high heels, with that laugh. And when she planned her own goodbye, she did the same thing she had always done. She chose love over category. She chose relationship over reputation. She chose the people who had actually shown up in her life, not the people who had shown up for her career. Miley Cyrus was in that room because Dolly wanted her there. Because in Dolly's heart, Miley was not a celebrity friend or a goddaughter in the Hollywood sense of the word. She was family. She was real. She was one of Dolly's own. And that decision, quiet, private, made years before her death, and honored precisely at the end, is maybe the most Dolly thing she ever did. More than the rhinestones. More than the wigs. More than the records, and the Grammys, and the movies, and the library that has now given free books to over 200 million children. More than any of it, the most Dolly thing she ever did was love people so completely, so without condition, so without category, that when the moment came to say goodbye, the room she chose to die in was full of it. The legacy that outlives us all. I want to end with something Dolly said herself, long before any of this happened. She said she was not afraid of death, that knowing where she was going and knowing Carl would be there actually brought her peace. She said the last thing she wanted was for her loved ones to be burdened with second-guessing, so she planned everything. The dress, the shoes, the music, the guest list, every detail, handled with the same care she brought to everything else in her life. She said she had lived a full life, a purposeful life, a life built not on what she could take, but on what she could give. She gave songs, she gave laughter, she gave her time, her money, her name, her voice to causes and people and children who needed them. She gave the world a vaccine, yes, you read that right. Dolly Parton donated $1 million to Vanderbilt University's COVID-19 research, the same research institution where she later received the very treatment her money helped fund. She built Dollywood and turned it into one of the most beloved theme parks in America, creating thousands of jobs in a part of Tennessee that needed them. She launched the Imagination Library in 1995, when literacy rates in her home county were among the worst in the state, and she did not stop until children were receiving free books in 5 countries on multiple continents. She did all of that, and still managed to make every individual person she met feel like the most important person in the room. She gave Miley Cyrus a godmother who loved her like her own. And she gave the world something harder to quantify, but more valuable than all of it. The living proof that it is possible to be famous and kind, to be powerful and humble, to be beloved by everyone, without belonging exclusively to anyone. Dolly Parton did not die a celebrity. She died a grandmother, a sister, a godmother, a friend, a woman of faith, who kept every promise she made to the people she loved. And in a small, private room in Nashville, surrounded by the people she had chosen, including one person the world never expected to see there she was, finally, at last, with Carl. The man she had loved since she was 18 years old. The man who had waited 17 months for her on the other side. I think, if Dolly were here right now, she would want us to do something with this. Not just feel it, but do something with it. She would want you to think about who is in your room, not your audience, not your followers, not your professional contacts or your celebrity connections. Your room. The people you would choose to be there at the very end, when everything else falls away and all that's left is love. Who is in your room? Because that list, however long or short it is the actual measure of a life. Dolly Parton's list had Miley on it. And that tells you more about who Dolly was than every award, every record, every #1 hit she ever had. If this video moved you, if it made you think about someone in your life, you need to call, text, or fax. Drop their name in the comments. Tell me who is in your room. And share this with someone who needs to be reminded that the most extraordinary thing a person can do is love without limit. Dolly always did. We should too.